what is the right? Most people would link the right with conservatism, and conservatism is kind of the idea of preserve or resist the future. The right has the tradition or the tendency to be linked with kind of reticent about the future. It's anti-progress in a sense. This conservatism can morph or be said to morph into a kind of xenophobic nationalism, a racist fascism that wants to maintain the status quo. So the right generally is contrasted with liberalism, which is about freedom and progress. But conservatives are also linked with, in their traditional guise, with small town America and the US and small town living elsewhere. They're associated with the kind of local, neighborly living that is associated with the 50s and 40s, perhaps even 60s to some extent. But anyway, so conservatives tends to a lot of times be associated with the rural and communities in small towns. Conservatives are also for small government. They can tend to be libertarian. They're often associated with business, and this is the right-wing aspect of the right, in that it's tends to be linked with capitalism, libertarianism, even to some degree globalism of business, of the free trade, free markets, crony capitalism policies and position. The left, on the other hand, is or tries to be associated with progress. But what is progress? Buying a new car is progress, getting a new job is progress, inventing a new cell phone is progress, gaining more gadgets and toys and skills are all constitute progress. Progress in terms of our gadgets and our industrialization and mechanization and electronic gadgets is business. It's associated with business, with progress in the scientific and technological areas. So that's progress, and that's tend to be linked with the right wing to some extent. So what is progress in terms of the left? Well, the left tends to look at progress in terms of social factors. You know, more liberal social mores. So the left supports gays and gay rights, transgenderism, sexual freedom, all kinds of freedom, personal freedom, though less in terms of free speech. They don't like conflict. They don't like disagreement with their social agenda. And this is the point to where they most diverge, the left and the right, is that the left is about social agendas and pushing through social agendas, and they tend towards social engineering, and that the end justifies the means. So if they're not fully in support of big government, they're certainly not against it, not where it comes to pushing their agenda. Whereas the right, they're pretty much universally against large government, and if they accept government at all, it's minimum to basically to protect their property rights. So whether this is really an attribute of the right or a more general factor that it's supported by people with property is don't need to go in with here. The other factor that's generally associated with the right is with Christianity. Now this opens up a whole new field, because with Christianity we have a tendency to see right and wrong as absolutes, and that there is a right and a wrong, and that we should know, or should be able to know, what's right and what's wrong. Whereas the left, they're more relativists. They don't like the idea of somebody being able to say, you're evil, you're going to hell, and to have that wall erected. They don't like homosexuality challenged, they don't like transgenderism challenged. So that's why they're against free speech for the mostly. They're relativist, and relativists don't have the ability to and don't have the wish, for that matter, to draw lines, even though they will say the right is fascist, the right are evil, the right are nationalist, the right are xenophobic, the right are Islamophobic, the right are homophobic, and so on and so forth. They don't like lines drawn between good and evil as such, you know. The evil of the right in their eyes is just that they're not left, you know, they're not liberal enough, they're not progressive enough. But this opens up a different issue, because if there is a right and wrong, and if conservatives believe that, then they are also accepting that they can be challenged on the grounds that they're challenging other people. If they say sin is ungodly and those who don't repent go to hell, then by their own terms they have to repent and live a certain life to not suffer the same fate. They're putting themselves up to be judged, in other words. And again, this is something liberals don't like, don't want to accept. But conservatives, or on the people on the right, are conservative in the sense they support this level of accountability. They support the traditional moral virtues, and they are traditionalists and reticent about change because they don't like the values being eroded away. If X is right and Y is wrong, they don't want these two values muddied. So Christians are people with values. They have a right and wrong, and they have values, and there's a line between them. Because if there's no line, there isn't any values. If everything is relative, then basically you can't say I'm better than you because I'm less against open marriage than you are, or I'm more I'm slightly more for gay rights than you are. It's you know, it's not a point to be distinguishing and judging others on. So the real issue about what is right, or who the right are, is they're people with an objective sense of right and wrong. They are willing to be judged, and they accept that there is a way to judge others and their behavior. And we see this with atheists, that they are able to look at a Christian and rightly or wrongly say, you aren't a good Christian, you're not living up to your standard. There's absolutely no similar capacity for a Christian to judge an atheist. An atheist is beyond judging. He's like God, because he's higher than any capacity for judgment. So the right are people who are subject to judgment, to an accounting. They live according to a right and a wrong, and to a process of accountability. So a right is a person who is makes himself accountable. So if we want to draw a line between left and right, on the left we have people who are relativists, moral relativists, cultural relativists. They don't believe they're accountable except to their own self. Their morality is completely contained in their own estimation of themselves. And on the right, you have people who are accountable. They believe there's a right and a wrong, and a standard of good and bad, and they hold themselves accountable. They hold others accountable, or try to, and they are willing to be held accountable by others according to this objective standard. So the real distinction, to get it down to one word, is objectivity versus relativity. Conservatives have an objective standard they live by. Atheists and non-believers don't. They have their own personal values. And that is basically the difference between the right and the left, which then, of course, leaves the left open to creating policies and social agendas based solely on their own personal estimation of what is right or wrong in terms of their own values, without any objectivity. So this is why they're so politically active, because they need to push their agenda, because their agenda is their whole validation of them, of what who they are and what they believe in. Conservatives, we're more interested in looking at this beam in our own eye than the straw in the eyes of others. So this is why you get the distinction between the two types of politics: the left's social agenda, social activism, and basically fascism, and the right's more reticent and more small government. You live your life, I live mine, and where we intersect, then there's an accountability, and we need an objective standard. So that's the basic summary of the distinction of left and right, and the definition of exactly who the right is. We're objective people with a sense of objective values, objective right and wrong.